Previously, we published a single screen as a simple Buzzy app. Now we'll publish several screens at once and link them together with some screen-based navigation. Here's our app design, as well as the splash screen we already published. Notice I've added some additional screens. These contain some static content for now and some simple navigation. We already have the splash screen defined as the start screen. An app should only have one single start screen defined. Our other screens will fall into two types, basic and overlay. Basic screens are your normal app screens that will display one at a time. We can select these and define them via the Design tab as before. We want these screens to be responsive and fill the available viewport. Overlay screens, as the name suggests, render over the top of existing screens. Multiple overlays can be stacked on top of each other. The obvious use case is for dialogues and alerts, but you can use them for screens, navigation drawers, drop-down or pop-up menus, tooltips, and more. Navigating between screens is generally done by assigning actions to buttons and nav items. Overlay screens are also opened in this way. To assign a navigation action, we select the button or other UI element that we want to trigger the action, and in the Design tab, just select the action we want. There's a lot of them, but they're grouped by type. For now, we'll focus on the simpler navigation actions. In this case, we want the button to navigate. Then we select the target screen that we want it to navigate to. This may be a normal screen or an overlay. We'll do the same with this button. We can put a back action on the back button here to take us back to the splash screen. Overlay screens can be navigated away from via a navigation action to a basic screen, or closed via a Close Overlay or Close All Overlays option. Since an overlay screen renders above any open basic screen, we can add a semi-transparent background to it. We can also apply a close action to this background, so if the user clicks outside the dialog area, it will close. Where and when you do this is obviously a UI decision. Let's publish this. Here's our basic app. We can navigate between the screens, and they all react responsively to our viewport. However, our detail screen isn't letting us scroll. We'll address this now. Let's return to our Figma file and look at some layout options. As we covered earlier, within a screen, all positioning gets defined by Figma's layer and frame settings. For instance, auto layouts, alignment, padding, gaps, and so on. Buzzy will also respect Figma's fixed position and scroll settings. These are currently defined in Figma's prototype options. Note that Figma has its own quirks here, but Buzzy will generally render your layout as it's defined in Figma. First, let's fix the scroll issue. We want all our screens to scroll if needed, so we'll select each screen, switch to the Figma prototype setting, and set them to vertically scroll. These scroll settings can apply to any Figma frame within a screen, meaning you can easily build interfaces with multiple scrolling sections, for instance, dashboards or admin-style desktop apps. Jump back to the Publish tab to update our app, and presto, our screen now scrolls when needed. Now let's make our home page navbar render in a fixed position at the top of the screen rather than scrolling with the content. Select the navbar, and in the Figma prototype controls, set it to fixed. Figma doesn't let us. It has its own set of rules and settings around layout that may change over time. If you're trying to do something and Figma has a layout option disabled, it's probably due to a conflict with another layout setting. You'll need to play around with it and check out the Figma docs. For now, we first need to make sure our screen is not an auto layout. And the navbar needs to be moved up to the top level of the screen. If we resize our screen frame, we can see it might need some work to position it correctly. In this case, we want the navbar to always stay at the very top of the screen and take up the full width of the screen. So we'll tell Figma to position it at the top and fix both left and right edges to the screen frame. That's better. Now we can set it to remain fixed. Note how the fixed item now appears here in the Layers panel. Now for the remaining content. Like the Navbar, it now needs to be absolutely positioned relative to the screen frame. In this case, we need to allow for the Navbar at the top, but still want to stretch it to both the left and right edge of the screen. Since auto layouts are still best practice, we want to make sure that our main content wrapper frame is an auto layout. Creating this in this way means we can easily nest the remaining screen content inside it and not have to position everything individually. It's also our recommended pattern if you're publishing your Buzzy app as a native Android or iOS app to one of the app stores. If we update our Buzzy app now, we'll see the screens and navigation is working as expected. If I make any further changes in Figma, I can simply republish directly to my live app. In the next video, we'll be introducing dynamic data, forms, and fields to our example Buzzy app.